some people think that taking black pepper is going to increase the absorption of turmeric, and that's actually not true. When you take black pepper, pepper has a compound called piperine, inhibits. Hi friends, Andrew Bernard's cooking channel has been viewed over 19 million times, and he made this viral anti-inflammatory cooking tutorial that has almost 3 million views. So I'm really curious what he had to say about inflammation and our food. Let's watch it together. Shallots. All right, that's a yes in my book. Garlic, definitely anti-inflammatory in my book. Wow. He's really brave. I wouldn't ever do that with a knife. I usually just use a cleaver and I just pound the whole thing. You know, when I was a kid, my mom, she sliced her hand cutting. Thank goodness she never got an infection. And then when I was living with my mother-in-law, she also sliced her hand. I mean, it was to the point where I can see the tendon. And so I'm really afraid of knives. I mean, I cook with it and I'll chop with a cleaver, but I'm always very aware not to touch the sharp edge. So be careful when you're cooking, chopping, or cleaning knives. Oh yes, garlic press. Now I've had a garlic press for years and I never used it because I felt like it was so cumbersome to push it and actually cumbersome to clean it. But I realized that if you can press it through that garlic press, it brings out so much more of the aroma and flavors of the garlic. So if you have a garlic press, I highly recommend you use it. It's also good exercise. Whoa, okay, kale, one of my favorite vegetables. So far, this video is a hit because I love the shallots, the garlic with the allicin. The shallots have quercetin. These are all anti-inflammatory phytonutrients. And now we have kale. So kale has glucoraphanin. It's best to pre-chop it, let it sit there so that you can convert more of the glucoraphanins into sulforaphanes. Now, if you don't have time to do that, no worries. Just put a pinch of mustard seed powder before you eat. And that has myrosinase, so it can actually start converting the glucoraphanin into sulforaphanes for you. Yes. You know, it tastes better if you strip it. Now, the stem actually is very nutritious, but it's harder. So people don't like to chew on that. But if you strip it and then you dice it into small pieces and saute that first, then that can be very tasty and it gives you a different texture. The only thing is like close to the bottom of the stem, like this part where it, was plucked off from the plant itself, it could be really, really fibrous and it may dry up. It depends on how long it's been in the supermarket. So just be careful of that part because it can get so fibrous that it's as chewy as wood. Oh, and he's using dried coconut flakes. I used to love coconut. I still like the taste of it. And I could eat coconut ice cream, coconut shrimp, coconut bread, coconut everything. I really liked coconut. And I thought it was actually okay because there's no cholesterol in coconut. No plant has any cholesterol. But that was before I realized that you don't need cholesterol to raise your cholesterol, or basically LDL, low density lipoproteins, which isn't really a cholesterol. It's actually a protein that carries cholesterol and other fatty acids. So when you have high LDL cholesterol, it actually causes atherosclerosis, and LDL stays in your system for at least 3 days. So if you ingest one molecule of LDL, it floats in your system for at least 3 days. So imagine if you're ingesting hundreds and thousands of those molecules, and then the next day you're ingesting more, and the next day you're ingesting more, then you have built this up very rapidly. And we know that high LDL from dietary intake is a big problem because cholesterol, or these low density lipoproteins, are just traveling through your bloodstream. And as they travel, they drop off these fatty acids or these lipids, and they drop off cholesterol. It's basically saturated fat. And when they drop off the saturated fat, you have these immune cells around your arteries. They're called macrophages, and they don't like that. In fact, if they see fat, they have to clean it up. It's like spilling grease, and they just have to clean up that grease. And the problem problem is they clean it up, but they have no way to get rid of it. So they just build it inside of them. Instead of a normal skinny macrophage, they become a giant foamy macrophage full of fat globules inside. And this makes them irritated. It's really abnormal. It's a pathology. And so then they secrete distress signals, SOS signals for their buddies and their friends and telling them something's going on, right? They can't quite figure it out. And so their friends come. When their friends come, you have other immune cells. So now you have inflammation, right? This whole cascade is called inflammation. So atherosclerosis is from inflammation. And we can see the end stages of atherosclerosis, which is calcification. So by the time your arteries are calcified, so if you go through the CT scan, a coronary CT scan, they can see if your arteries are calcified. And if they are, it's too late. That's the end stage of atherosclerosis. That's why we don't get CT scans on everybody, because it's not an accurate reflection of what your risk factor, right? No, if you have a lot of calcification, that means this process of atherosclerosis has been going on for a long time, where it's very aggressive in your body, and that would be very different. But if you have the beginnings of atherosclerosis, then we can't really see it. If you think about it, when you have pipes, if you pour grease down your kitchen sink, then those pipes get a layer of grease. And if every day you did that, every second you did that, you kept doing that, you can imagine that your kitchen sink's going to get plugged up. And that's the same thing that happens in your body. So the goal of preventing that is to reduce the amount of fat that you're pouring down your drain. I'm always collecting the fat and wiping it with a paper towel and throwing away in the trash can because I don't want to pour it down my drain. If you think of it that way, if you won't pour it down your drain because it's going to plug up your drain, then don't pour it in your mouth, because eventually it's going to get through your pipes, your drains, for blood circulation. And when that gets obstructed, then you have no blood flow. And that's the beginnings of dementia, impotence, back pain, heart disease, strokes, gangrene, kidney failure, all this bad things that happen because of atherosclerosis. And we know that atherosclerosis starts as a child at age 11. And by the time you're 18, if your diet has been full of saturated fat, then you have basically an accelerated level of atherosclerosis since childhood. And that can be reversed if you start reducing the amount of saturated fat and giving your body more whole food plants. So for this, I think he has a quarter cup or a cup. I'm not quite sure how much coconut flakes he has, but for that little bit of food, that is just way too much coconut flakes. Now, if he's going to share it with everybody, then, a little bit is probably fine. Oh, sesame seeds. Now, sesame seeds are excellent. If you toast it a little bit, put a little bit of heat on it, you can bring out its aroma. Now, the problem with sesame seeds is that it burns easily, so you have to be very careful not to put it on high heat. It's a very fragile seed. It's very, very greasy. A lot of Asian people were always using it to add flavor to our foods. So that's, I think, a great addition. Now, they have done studies in sesame seeds where they've given people sesame seeds, people with osteoarthritis, and the people who actually ate the sesame seeds over 2 months felt better and had less pain than the people who didn't eat the sesame seeds. Ooh, okay, turmeric. That is another excellent choice. Now, every day I try to eat a quarter teaspoon of turmeric in my daily diet. I probably eat more than that. Turmeric has many beneficial ingredients, including curcumin, curcuminoids. They all help the body to repair, especially to repair our DNA, because it's undergoing attack all the time through all these environmental toxins that we're normally exposed to, whether it's in the air or in our food. Now, of all the spices, turmeric is the most well-studied spice, has the most publications, like thousands of publications, and it adds such a beautiful fragrance and flavor to so many dishes. Now, interestingly, India is one of the largest consumers of turmeric, and they have actually very low dementia rates. Now, you can bring out more of its beneficial properties if you add some heat to turmeric, as well as if you cook it a little bit with oil, a little bit of olive oil. Turmeric is actually not very absorbable. It's hard to absorb. Most of it is fiber. And if you add heat to it, you're kind of destroying some of the fiber to release the beneficial components inside. And then the beneficial components are actually oils are fat soluble. And that's why if you add a little bit of olive oil, it makes it more bioavailable to you. Now, even though you can't absorb most of the turmeric compounds, your gut microbiome can metabolize it. So don't worry, even if you're not getting it in your bloodstream, your gut microbiome will benefit. And when they get some turmeric, then you're promoting healthy gut microbes and you're giving them tools to help them beat out the bad pathogenic microbes. Now, some people think that taking black pepper is going to increase the absorption of turmeric, and that's actually not true. When you take black pepper, pepper has a compound called piperine. And what piperine does is inhibits your liver from breaking down the turmeric components like the curcumin. Because usually when you absorb the curcumin, it maybe lasts like 2 hours in your system. But if you take piperine or black pepper, then you actually keep it around your body longer. That's how it works. If you actually wanted to increase its absorption though, there is a molecule that does that. And that's called bromelain. Bromelain is found in pineapples. And actually that's the only plant that has bromelain. And specifically the core of the pineapple. So the stuff that people throw out, that's where the bromelain's at. And the younger the pineapple, the more bromelain is in it. But nobody likes to eat young, unripened pineapple. So when you eat bromelain with curcumin or with turmeric, you actually increase its absorption. It helps to stabilize the curcumin in your digestive tract. It does this because, there are enzymes that try to break it down in your digestive tract as well. Because bromelain are proteolytic enzymes, they inhibit those enzymes that try to interfere with your absorption. So actually bromelain has been known to increase the absorption of other nutrients. So that's why I eat bromelain every day. So if he added some pineapple to this dish, then that can increase the bile availability of turmeric. But even if he doesn't, I just take turmeric and bromelain as a supplement. And so if you want to know what I take, I have a link in the show notes below. Ooh, salt. I have mixed feelings about salt. Salt tastes good, but there's so many medical problems that come because of salt and because we've trained our palate to want more salt. I usually try to not add any salt to my food, and if I have to, I will add some miso salt, because miso salt is the only sodium salt that has been shown not to increase blood pressure. And it's probably because it's made out of soy. So for me, I would use everything he has on here except for the coconut flakes and the salt. But the rest of it is A+. The salt I would skip and I would skip the coconut flakes. I really don't know what can replace it. I honestly really like coconut, and I've been thinking long and hard what can replace it, but nothing tastes like that. It's just so unique. There's nothing else that I know of that tastes like a coconut. Okay, here is the black pepper. Ooh, the only thing worse than coconut flakes is coconut milk. Because when you buy coconut milk, there's a layer of fat on top. And you can buy the low-fat version, but there's still that fat on top. That's pure saturated fat. That's lauric acid. Coconut is like 90% saturated fat. Lauric acid is what is known to increase LDL cholesterol. So I would skip coconut milk. I used to put it in all my curries. I mean, this looks like a curry to me. And I would put it in. It tastes delicious. But my mother-in-law, she told me not to use coconut milk because it was too fattening. And she showed me how to make curry with soy milk. So instead of coconut milk, I use soy milk. Whenever a recipe calls for coconut milk, I just replace it with soy milk. Garbonzo beans. Those are excellent. So that wins another point with me. I love garbanzo beans, and I try to eat some form of bean all the time. Actually, I try to eat garbanzo beans every day, but I think he's drying them. Yeah, he's drying them. Leftover rice. Okay, so I hope you refrigerated it. It's very common to eat leftover rice the day after. When rice that you've put in the refrigerator, it has a lower glycemic index. So it's actually beneficial if you store it properly to eat leftover rice that's been refrigerated. Because then when you do that, you're making resistant starch so that it'll have less of an impact on your blood sugar. Now, you have to make sure that you store it safely, because if you leave it out, the bacteria, they lay eggs. They're called spores. And these spores are in your rice. They're called called Bacillus cereus. You want to make sure you store your rice properly and, scoop it straight after you've cooked the rice and then put it immediately in the refrigerator. Just be very careful with leftover rice. It is advantageous if you're thinking of it as a glycemic index to wait the next day after it's been refrigerated so that you can convert some of that starch in rice, because rice is just about pure starch. And starch turns into sugar. So that's the problem with white rice. It looks white to me, so I think it's long grain white rice. Long grain has less sugar than short grain. So if you wanted to reduce your glycemic index, long grain rice would be better than a shorter grain rice. And of course, refrigerating it converts it into resistant starch, which then acts like fiber, which is a molecule now your body cannot digest. And that's why it has less of an impact on your sugar. Ooh, ginger. Now, I love ginger. Ginger has gingerol. It has so many beneficial properties, from such a great antioxidant. It has anti-inflammatory properties. It's good for headaches, for pain, for nausea, for motion sickness. There's so many benefits of ginger. There is also young ginger. I actually really like shaved young ginger. It's the ginger that you get when you go to a sushi restaurant. I mean, they actually put it, like they put sugar and vinegar and stuff like that. But if you just shave it yourself into thin slices, that's also very tasty. All right, so I think that's olive oil. I can't quite tell. So interesting, he put the garbanzo beans in first. I would have put the spices in first, because I find that when the beans are too hard, my kids won't eat it. So usually I have to put the beans in after there is a soup broth in it. That's probably why he dried the beans, so that the oil doesn't splash. What I do is I cook the spices first. So I'll put in the ginger, and then I'll put in the shallots. The garlic I won't put in first because it burns easily. So that's kind of the order that I put things in. I try to save the garlic till the end, because the allicin is also heat sensitive. So if it's cooked too long, cooked too high, you'll lose a lot of the allicin. And I'm trying to preserve as much of the anti-inflammatory ingredients as possible. And then I'll just put the sesame seed. Sometimes I toast it a little bit, but it's just so fragile. I think it's more fragile than the garlic. So I usually just crush it a bit and I put it in the water to get some of the fragrance out. So we'll see what order he puts it. So he's putting garlic and then the shallots. Oh, he's grating the ginger. Very good. Yeah, you have to kind of grate it. If you chop it in thick chunks, people don't like that. What is that? Oh, chili flakes. Oh yeah, chili. Chili gives a good taste. I've trained myself to like more chili. Capsaicin is actually a molecule that inhibits pain. That's in chili pepper or cayenne pepper. I think that's what he's putting, cayenne pepper. I think it brings out the fragrance in a lot of foods. Okay, that's a coconut. That step I would skip. Well, it does look good, but it's a little bit dark for me. I try not to brown my foods, because when you brown it, it's basically a Maillard reaction where you're forming more glycoalkaloids. And so it's considered to be toxic. So I try not to put my food on high heat or stir fry it too long. It gets more inflammatory as opposed to less inflammatory. Yeah, that's usually what I do. I put the shallots. And usually I'll cook the shallots down first to kind of get it really soft before I put the garlic in. Yes. That's tasty. Oh, that's the turmeric. Oh, he didn't put that earlier? I thought he put that earlier. I would have put the turmeric in first and sauteed that around a little bit. And then I would have put the shallot and sauteed that around a little bit. And then until it, was soft. And then once it's soft, I would probably put the kale in before I put the garlic, because I think the garlic is the most sensitive and I want to preserve the allicin in it. Ooh, that's a can of coconut milk. That's a lot of coconut cream. Yeah, that's all fat. That's all lauric acid. Honestly, I would eat that even though I'm sure it's delicious, but that's not anti-inflammatory anymore. Oh yeah, see how the rice is loose? That's how I know it's long grain rice. Because short grain rice would be all stuck together, but long grain, it doesn't have as much starch, so it's looser. It looks maybe like basmati rice or something like that. He sprinkled something on it. I don't know what he sprinkled. Maybe green onions? I would have thought he would have had to cover the rice a little bit so that it can suck up some of the juice and get less hard. Sometimes it helps to cover it up. Well, it does look beautiful. Oh, and he put cilantro. You can chop lots of cilantro on top. That would really add more flavor and fragrance to it. It's a beautiful dish. I probably wouldn't eat it because of the coconut cream in it. So I would substitute the coconut cream with soy milk. But soy milk won't make it creamy. So if you wanted to make it creamy, then I would say heat up the soy milk or any other plant-based milk and put a bunch of cashews in it, like a quarter cup of cashews. I guess it depends on how creamy you want it. Hot liquid. You put the cashew in it to soak there for maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then you blend that ingredient. Now you have a creamy liquid that you can substitute for coconut milk. It is more caloric when you do that, right? When you blend up your nut, peanut butter is more caloric than peanuts. So just understand that you're adding calories to it. Coconut cream just has a ton of calories. So everything else is, I wouldn't eat so much rice because I think rice is just pure sugar. I don't exercise enough to eat that much sugar or starch, I would say. Starch that gets converted to sugar, but I do like the taste of rice, but I try to minimize it because of its arsenic content. But so, it's great, all the combinations that he has, except for that one substitute, the coconut milk.
Some of us get pumpkined out. Then again, I guess that means others probably never get pumpkined in. With this recipe, I wanted to keep some really good anti-inflammatory meals that weren't fall specific in the weekly menu. I feel like by sprinkling...
I didn't know what pumpkin means. I guess he released it during the fall.
Recipes in like this, it will help us find some good balance while still exploring various colors of the rainbow.
He definitely got a bunch of different colors of the rainbow in that meal, and I'm always trying to go for that. I do think that that's just one dish. In addition to that dish, I think I would eat that with a bunch of greens, right? A whole bunch of different types of greens and more vegetables. But he has grain. I would probably upgrade the grain to other grains such as quinoa, barley, millet. It has a variety of nutrients, much more so than rice, because rice is just very little nutrition. It's mostly just starch. And I would want to eat a whole grain product. So that to me looked like it was white rice. White rice has even less nutrients than brown rice, but brown rice has more arsenic than white rice. So, you have that trade-off.
In the diet. I guess yellow isn't necessarily that far from orange on the color wheel, but it's the thought that counts.
Yellow is great. There's nothing wrong with yellow. Yellow means the food has beta carotene. So I really like yellow. I think that yellow is probably from the turmeric, and turmeric is an excellent anti-inflammatory spice.
Green in there. This recipe is designed to be...
Actually, there's not enough green in there.
Be quick, easy, with zero sacrifice in nutrition. So it's...
Well, it's not complete, that recipe has pretty good amount of fiber. So probably the cup of beans has around 10 grams of fiber, but our goal is to eat 30 grams of fiber a day. So that would be one meal. I usually aim for 50 grams of fiber. That dish could be complemented with whole grain so that you could up that fiber load. The other thing you can complement it with is some fruit. So eat some fruit at the end for dessert, and then eat either a soup or a salad, maybe both, and make your salad a high fiber salad with roots as well as nuts and seeds. So if you actually added the cashew or some other nut base in your sauce, then that would totally increase the fiber content in that meal that he made.
30 minutes, one pot, and loaded with anti-inflammatories.
Yes, I really like how it's 30 minutes or less. I would say it's probably less than 30 minutes because everything was kind of pre-made and you didn't have to cook it down that long. Loaded with anti-inflammatory ingredients except for the coconut and the coconut milk.
We're gonna start off making the chickpeas, and the skillet I'm using may seem excessive in size. Believe it or not, there's some really good intent behind that. A large skillet is going to allow me to get all of my ingredients touching all of the surface. With everything touching, that means the whole thing is being cooked at one time.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
So you know when you're reading through ingredients and like the cooking time will give some range of like 5 to 10 minutes. In this case, simply using a larger skillet could help you be on the 5-minute end of that. And that's due to just having all your ingredients in contact. The goal here is to get the chickpeas crispy. So we're actually moving the
Oh, see, he wants it crispy. I usually like it soft.
chickpeas into the skillet earlier than the rest of the ingredients. Typically, we would get the aromatics going first.
Yeah, that would be me.
We're gonna be cooking our ingredients for that in-between range of 8 to 12 minutes. That's gonna be too long for your aromatics without any additional support. The add-in of unsweetened coconut flakes, some seeds, a little bit more pepper is a really nice finish to this part of the recipe. But one more layer of flavor you can add in is drizzling a little bit of sweet chili or maybe some harissa. That's gonna set this whole thing apart. If you're not into a coconut flavor, it's not one of those recipes that I would typically recommend you make. But if you're not allergic to nuts, what I would do is swap the coconut shreds for like some almond slivers or halves, and you could probably have yourself a really tasty dish.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea to swap the coconut shreds to almond slivers or some other nut. That would actually be very tasty. And by the way, a lot of people think that when you're allergic to nuts, like tree nuts, then you're allergic to coconuts because, you know, coconut is from a tree. But coconut is actually a fruit, not a nut. So most people, there's no cross reaction between people with tree nuts and coconuts. And it's pretty rare to have an allergy against coconut, but, you know, it can happen. When in doubt, go ask your doctor to check it out.
Using the same pot because I really don't like washing dishes.
Me too.
I mean, honestly, if you used a separate pot, this could probably be like a 15-minute meal here. I guess doing it that way wouldn't make it one pot though, so choose your battle. We're using the same skillet to almost hack a golden rice with elements of our chickpea dish that was just cooking in there prior. I don't know about you, but I use garlic like the bulb is going to expire.
Yeah, me too.
Instantly, if not used in the dish that's in front of me. Keep in mind, all garlic isn't created equal. I shop at Aldi for favorable prices, but the garlic there looks like it's been hit with a shrink ray. But
That's so funny. I actually buy my garlic in bulk at Costco. I don't buy the pre-peeled ones. I buy the bulbs.
But then I'll head right over to Acme and their garlic looks like it was grown in Texas. Once your garlic and shallot are ready, you can use a green of your choice. Spinach, I tend to use very often, but I also like kale. You could put in there some bok choy.
Those are all good. Sometimes just put on all three.
We're going for a creamy rice, and we're gonna use coconut milk to try to achieve that. Although, you know, pending your coconut can, you may wanna have a little stock on hand. The hope is, once you rip open that can, you're gonna have something like 25% coconut cream and the rest coconut water. Don't look at me like that. I know how to do math. 75% is the coconut water, okay? If you have more cream than that, it's great, but ultimately you're gonna wanna use a little water or a little stock to help hike up the rest of that liquid you need. If you need to swap coconut milk.
Yeah, I was wondering, how did he rehydrate the rice with just coconut cream? I thought he had just put the water in earlier, but he did add some extra water.
Go for soy milk as a
yeah, soy milk, that's what I would use.
Good thick option. And you're gonna wanna simmer that for probably about 10-15 minutes prior to moving to the next step in the recipe. The recipe is showing a brown basmati rice.
Oh, it looked white to me, but I guess it's brown. So it does have a little bit more fiber than white rice.
I would choose this or just another long grain rice. The complete recipe can be found in the description, but it's also on my website at makeitdairyfree.com, where you could also print it out if you like. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you hanging out. Until next time, believe in good.
That was an excellent base. I just would tweak it a little bit. I would make that. I actually do make that. And if you want to know another great idea for a meal prep, watch the next video.